Hey folks, welcome back to the Digital Imaging channel. I'm Will, and today we're going to be talking about our paper scanning process. Before we get into the actual steps of our process, like we typically say for videos of this sort, our process is our own, so we can't speak for other companies and how they do their paper scanning. This is just related to what we do and what we know. There are a lot of different types of paper records, but the simplest way to do this today is to assume we're using good old office-sized documents and banker's boxes. Step one is to receive your paper. Assuming that all the contract work and admin stuff is done, this is the first thing that needs to happen is you getting your records to us. And this can be done in a couple different ways. Typically, it'll be a pickup, like if you're local to one of our facilities, we'll have a driver go out in one of our vans, pick up your records. You can drop them off, you can have them shipped to us, or we've even done things such as flying out to a location and renting a truck, having one of our employees rent it and drive it back. We've also contracted with third parties to pick up larger, very substantial projects as well. So whichever way it is, the first step to really get going on the execution is getting the paper records to us. The second step is tagging the transportation containers. And by that, in this sense, we're talking about banker's boxes. So once we receive your records, let's say it's 500 boxes and we get it all at one time. Once it gets to our facility, we're going to tag those with barcode labels and put it into it's called MTS, Material Transportation System, which is part of our homegrown Unity application. So both of those are self-developed applications that we use internally for project tracking and project execution. So when we get those records, we tag them, we put them into MTS, and they have a barcode label that includes your name, so our client's name, the date it was received, the job number, the box number. So that barcode has all that information. And as we move these boxes throughout the process and do the work of the scanning project, we'll know exactly where they are, which records have been scanned, how many we've scanned, and everything that goes into that project tracking. After your boxes have been tagged, what we have next in step 3 is secure storage. Now, the entire facility is secure. It's not open to the public. Someone can't just walk in. Many different ways to keep your records protected on the whole, but also if you have a certain type of project, like let's say you're working with criminal records, and those are the type of files you provide to us, or medical records or something of that sort, we do have additional layers of security inside of our facility. It's almost like an onion, like the more you dig, there's just more layers of security. So depending on the security level of your project, and maybe even more ensconced within our facility in little compartmentalized areas, even within the security of the facility as a whole. But the key thing to remember is that while they're in the care, custody, and control of BMI, your records are secure both digitally and physically. And if you're interested in seeing how they're physically secure, we do have a video on that. And specifically for the physical security, we do have a video on that where you can check out how we protect your records physically. Step 4 is creating your job order. So even though we have thousands of projects under our belt and decades of work and knowing how to do paper scanning projects, every project is unique in some way. So your project is going to get what we call a project process flow. And what happens once we receive the materials, we have the scope of work done, your sales rep has been working with you and working out how the project is gonna be executed and what you're gonna end up with, they're gonna take the contract language, basically the paperwork side of it, and translate that into an actual job order for our internal project team to then start working on your records. And within that Unity application I mentioned earlier, we have a job order system, we just call it SOP, but the original acronym was based on scope of project. So the sales rep is going to take that contract language, the written agreement of what your scope of work is going to be, and turning it into a line-by-line itemized project scope that then our project team can create your project process flow. And your project will be tracked within Unity along every step of that process flow throughout the duration of the project. After that project order is created in Unity SOP, our PM, our project manager, M1 architect, is going to create what I just said is the M1, which is what we call our milestone 1 proof of concept. And what that is the PM is going to take that job order that was created in SOP and turn that into an actual step-by-step project workflow. Then we're going to test a small batch of your records. So for this 500 box project we alluded to, let's say you have 3 document types within that entire project. We'll take 3 boxes, one of each document type, create the project process flow, and then run the records through that completed process flow. And the milestone is there to ensure that A, we built it correctly and it works, B, that we may find something that no one knew about. We can talk about it with you once we have an approval process for this M1. And 3, you get to see those results of the proof of concept and say, yes, I like it, let's move forward, or hey, I might want to tweak a few things, or whoa, this is way different than I thought. We need to hold on and reevaluate a little bit. But that milestone process is critical to our projects, and we do not go forward with the remainder of the paper scanning until we get your approval on that M1. Step 5 is the preparation stage, or we just call it prep, and that's basically getting your paper records ready to go through our scanners. This includes removing staples, paper clips, rubber bands, fixing tears, taking taped items off and putting them on a different page so these two different documents can be scanned at separate times and be captured properly. Anything that goes into getting those records ready to go through a scanner. And although it doesn't sound like much, preparation is usually the meat of the project. Paper scanning is actually quite simple. If you gave me a ream of printer paper, just super clean paper, a stack of it, I can put that in one of our scanners and it'll just blast through. It will fly, no issues. But most records from clients we work with are not like that. They're in folders, they're in binders, they're paper clipped, they're stapled, they're torn up, they're crumbled, whatever it is. Those need to be prepped to be able to cleanly go through our scanners. So preparation really is one of the major components of a paper scanning project. And one of the things we do recommend to actually lower your costs if you're working with us is to do some prep yourself. Yes, we will always have to do some preparation on our side. Even if you go through and say, hey, these are absolutely angelic pages, they are so clean, you don't have to check, we still need to check because we didn't have eyes on it when it happened. So we need to make sure that before we send pages through our scanners, they're absolutely ready to be scanned. But because you've already gone through and cleaned them and prepped them and gotten them ready, it'll take us very little time to go through that. We may just flip through and say, yeah, this is clean. So a teeny bit of preparation, but you've reduced the amount on the front side that allows us to do the actual scanning much more quickly and just basically reducing that upfront prep. Step 6 is what you're here for. That's the scanning. It's where we actually put your pages through our scanners and get them digitized. And while the scanning is happening, what is going to be going on is the operator is feeding the pages through the scanner and they have a screen next to them that they're watching the resulting images pop up. And if they see an issue, let's say it's just a completely blank image, they're gonna stop and review why that happened. If they see an image cut off, drastically cut off, and they know this is not normal, they're gonna stop and review it and potentially rescan. So while our operators are scanning, they're also doing some reviewing to make sure that the images are captured properly and the pages are scanning cleanly. Step 7 is back prep, which is once the actual scanning's done, they've gone through scanners, we've digitized them, it's getting those records back into the banker's box. Let's say they were in binders before, we're gonna put them back in the binders, back in the box, and then put them in storage until we decide what to do after that or what's part of the scope of work in the contract. Now, back prep can be very simple, which is we scan it, just put the pages back in the box. Most of our clients say, once it's scanned, we don't care how it's organized, just put it back in the box. We're gonna dispose of it anyway. We're just gonna put it in storage. We're never gonna look at it again. Great, we put it back. But sometimes back prep can be fairly extensive. Some clients want them back, of course, in order, which we can easily do. We typically put them back in order, regardless of if we're gonna be disposing of them or not. But some clients want them, hey, restaple them. Put them back in the binders, back in the sections, back in the folders with separations. Absolutely doable, but that can increase the cost because not only is it the front end prep that gets it ready for scanning, but we have to make sure we understand where those staples were, where those separators were, how they're organized in binders. And putting records back exactly as they came is time consuming, potentially difficult, so it can be a little more expensive. Next, we move on to step 8, which is post-scan image processing. So we've scanned your records, they're digitized. Now it's working through the process flow and getting to a format where we can actually deliver them to you. This can include QA, quality assurance, and quality checking to make sure that the images came out legible, they're captured properly, they're skewed properly, things of that sort. It may include OCR text search. Some clients want text search, some don't. So if that's included in the project, this is where we're going to have the OCR processing to get your images searchable. These things and others aren't always included, but if they are, they're part of this post-scan image processing step. And then step 9, we have indexing, which is digitally naming the files that we've created from your scan. So let's say you have that 500 boxes and each box is a bunch of folders with student records. So you might have 50 to 100 folders or students in each box. So we scan those images and there's a folder with a name and a date of birth, let's say. You may say, I want the first name, last name, date of birth. Okay, so now we've scanned those files. We take that multi-page file per folder and we turn it into a single file named by first name, last name, date of birth. That's the indexing phase. Now, some of the indexing can revolve around, is every piece of information that you want available? Is there a first name on here? Is it just the first initial? Is there a full last name? Is there a suffix? Is there a middle name? Do we need need to include all that. All these little nuances go into indexing, but that's basically what we're doing. We're taking those digital files and naming them for you. Occasionally, clients say, we don't need indexing, just get us the files. Even if you say no indexing, there is still some indexing, at least from our end, and we'll provide a BMI unique identifying number, or a UID as we call it. So if you have those 100 folders per box, you say, I don't need indexing, we're just gonna do it internally once you get us the digital scans. Great, here's your 100 multi-page files, of one file per folder, named by our BMI UID. So it might be, here's the other file next to it, 651172.pdf. It's just unique IDs so that something doesn't overlap and copy itself. We do that to make sure that you're getting all the files and you have them separated properly. Now, depending on what you're asking for and what the scope of work and the contract requires, and then what we've gone through in the M1 process and all agreed on, indexing can be one of the more expensive parts of a project because it can be very complicated, it can be very simple. So we're doing those 500 boxes. You could do box level indexing, or what we call digital box. So there might be something on the front that says this is A through C student records, or A through BE, or something of that sort. We would just capture all the folders. They'd be individual files, probably by UID, and then we'd have them in a giant folder called A through BE. So you'd have box level indexing. We're not capturing the individual titles from each of those folders, it's just whatever's on the box. And then you have 500 folders by box title, and then you have the individual files by UID within that. That's a very simple method. Going to the folder level, still fairly simple because we have those physical separators. We can see the folders and know this is a different file, but now we're capturing those 3 pieces of information: first name, last name, and date of birth. It takes more time, more characters to capture, more index points to capture. So 100 per box instead of 500 index points, the 500 boxes. Now we're capturing 500 boxes times 100 index points per box. That's a lot of information to capture. But then you can go even further. You may say, hey, within those folders, there are different sections and I want each section captured a certain way, or certain things from various pages. That's a whole nother level of indexing. So you have box level, you have file level, you can have page level. The more granular, the more detailed and closer down to the bottom you get, typically the more expensive it is. So just keep that in mind, that indexing can be one of those things that are part of your project that not only is potentially complicated, but it can take it from a fairly straightforward project and reasonably priced to, whoa, we're getting way up there because this is very complicated, very difficult indexing. So there you have it. If you work with us, that's our paper scanning process to get your records digitized, going from hard copy to a digital format. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and get notifications so you see the next time the videos come out. Appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.